Hello, everyone. This is Doug Wilkerson with Central Christian Center here in Joplin, Missouri. Also with Saturday Night Live Life Recovery Ministry here with the church also. Hey, this is our 18th year of Saturday Night Live, and we're still going on. We will be gone, uh, not this week. We'll be having a meeting this week, but the following week, Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, we will not be having a live meeting. So anyway, um, thanks for tuning in. Glad you're here. Christmas is coming up. We're going to be having our Christmas children's program. The kids have they have a program, and then the team been working on a video that they're going to be showing. And so anyway, there's going to be music and um, uh, and of course Pastor Hank will be speaking. Be church. Be a good time to get together. Hope to see you here with us at Central Christian Center. I've been talking about um, a topic here for several weeks. This is our part 4 of How's Your Focus and 12 Ways to Change Your Focus. I almost didn't think I was going to make it on today. I had internet issues and computer issues and all kinds of stuff, and I just about was ready to say, well, I don't guess I'm going to be able to make it. And then I tried one more thing and made it. So here I am. Hopefully it'll be helpful to you, because that's all I want. That's all the church wants. That's what all that Pastor Hank wants. We want to be a help to you. So anyway, I want to just do what I can to lift you up, to encourage you, to empower you, if you will, help you to get some new insights, some encouragement, to just help you to make your way through this time of sometimes, well, life is messy, and anyway, it's difficult, but with some help, we'll all make it through. You and me and all of us. So anyway, we'll dispense with that. Proverbs 16:32. I've read this the last several weeks. This is out of the Amplified Bible. The first part is important, but the second part is more important here. Okay, it says, "He who is slow to anger is better than more honorable than mighty soldiers." Second part, "And he who rules and controls his own spirit than he who captures a city." That's what we're talking about. Focus. We're talking about perception. We're talking about getting control of yourself. Psychological terms is regulating uh, uh, the emotional part of yourself, um, moving from dysregulation into regulation, and that's if you look at most of the Psalms, that's what the writer of Psalms, David and the others, were doing. They were taking themselves from a dysregulated state and moving themselves into a different state, emotional state, to have a have a better connection with themselves and with God and with others. And that's what we're talking about. And Lord, we know we need to be able to have this skill. So even though I'm talking about focus is a part of it, because we really, to be able to focus on something, stick with something, we have to be able to concentrate and stick with something, and that will then shift our perspective, which will shift our state, emotional state, mental state, and which will enhance our ability to have a better spiritual state. So anyway. George Lucas made this quote. He's the film producer of Star Wars and Indiana Jones. This was his quote, and that is, "Always remember your focus. Always remember your focus determines your reality. Good statement. Tony Robbins, he says, your life is controlled by what you focus on. Okay, what you focus on. And I've talked a lot about that, and I'll hit it again today. But if you focus on bad stuff, you're going to get more bad stuff. If you worry about bad stuff, guess what? Well, what are you supposed to worry about? You're not supposed to worry. You're supposed to recognize it, consider it, and then move on. Okay, fix what you can, and let go of what you can. And most of what we worry about, we can't fix. It's outside our realm of control. So, anyway, Earl Nightingale said this. This is a quote. He says, the mind moves in the direction of our current most dominant thought or thoughts. I remember, I don't know, late 70s, early 80s, I came across some information that really helped me, and that was that our brain can only think on one deep thought at a time. And we can have a lot of scattered thoughts, and our brain's jumping back and forth. That's that dysregulation I was talking about. But if we are able to grab a hold of our thinking and get focused on one deep thought, then that other chatter, static, commotion, chaos will begin to dissipate. How's your focus? Hopefully it's better than it was. Mine's not as bad as it used to be, but not as good as it's going to be. But I'm better, okay? I'm better. Hope you are too. So 12 ways to change your focus. Proverbs 4:25 says, let your eyes look straight ahead. Fix your gaze directly before you. You know, my brother Greg told a story, and he preached last week, and he referred to some of the things I've been talking about, but he told a story that I really wasn't familiar with, was about they noticed a kind of a bizarre event going on in the desert, that people kept running into telephone poles along the highway in the desert. And they finally determined that people started looking at those telephone poles and veering and running off the road and running into those telephone poles because their eyes would be caught to it. I had a friend of mine, it's Mardell Rouse. I talked about this many years ago, about this idea about that people they look at something, and what they're not wanting to get close to it. They're just trying to be careful, but they keep their eyes on it. And because of that, they go towards it. And she realized that her mailbox is on the highway, and people coming down the road seemed like a lot of times would come closer to her. And she realized that people wanting to miss her was focusing on her, so therefore they got closer to her. So you got to be careful about that. All right. Anyway, there's other illustrations, but I'm not going to go into those. So I just want you to be able to get better at focusing, better at your awareness of what's going on, your own thoughts, even if they're negative thoughts, that you're aware of them so that you can deal with them, so that you can get healthier thoughts, okay? And so that you can increase your positive and healthy perceptions. That's what this is all about. Another quote that I come across was that it's kind of a mind hack quote, and it says, focus, not intelligent, is a secret brain hack. A secret brain hack. I remember, and I'm not sure if this was Carol Dweck or if it was somebody else, that said that it was not your IQ that determined a positive outcome in a lot of people's lives, as most people think. It was the ability to focus, use what you have, okay? Because a lot of folks with maybe higher IQ didn't use or wasn't able to focus to um, implement what they had. So if you use what you have, then you get connected, you get things done, you get creative, uh, you become even more successful, according to whoever that author was, and I think it was Carol Dweck, and I'll be talking about her more in a minute. So uh, I'm gonna try to do a quick review of the first 9 or 10 that I've already hit. I've tried to delete it so that I wouldn't cover it. But I felt like I'd like to do it because I got new stuff too that I throw in here that hopefully will be helpful to you. So it's not just strictly review; some of it's new. So number one, first way to change your focus is to form a action-based perspective. In other words, you need to get action-based. You need to lean forward. You need to decide that not to be passive, but you're going to be active and take action. Okay, look for a way to go. Back when I used to play football, I played in multiple different positions, and one of my positions was a running back. And the coach said, would call a play, and there was a hole supposed to open up in this particular part of the line. But if it doesn't open up, keep your eyes open. Look for another opening that may occur. Okay, and so instead of a lot of guys who would just run into the place that they were supposed to go, whether there's a hole there or not, and guess what? It didn't work out normally very good. So anyway, we could shift and move and be ready to find this place to go to, and that's you. You need to have an action-based perspective. Is what I'm trying to say. So make a plan and work the plan. That always goes better. And one of the plans you need to make is that, well, sometimes I have to have option B, C, and D. Okay. Number two, question your goals and directions. If things aren't working out, maybe you ought to check on it. Okay. And if you're not sure, it's better to review. It's called inventory. Take inventory, check on things. Okay, it's better to have a checkup, so to be able to know what's going on, and getting, looking at your mind and being willing to not. Sometimes people have a fixed mindset, and that they not willing to adjust what will work for them. Like I mentioned about the running back situation. Well, I won't go into any more football analogy. It's been a long time since I've been there. So anyway, and so we need to look if we need to make a shift, and then ask yourself different questions. Questioning yourself, which may sound strange. Most people don't think you should talk to yourself, but I think you should talk to yourself, and I think you should answer yourself. Okay, because when you're doing that, you're using different parts of your brain, and so it can create sparks. It can create insight. It can create trigger things that can be very helpful. And so you need to ask yourself questions to stimulate this. And we talked about questions the other day, and one of the questions was, what do I do? What can I do here to accomplish my task? Okay. One that I always used was, come on, let's think creatively. In fact, I move to businesses and they tell me they can't do something. And oftentimes I'll ask the person their name, and then they'll tell me their name. And I'll say, let's say Bill. I say, Bill, come on, think creatively. How can we deal with this? And I try to give them a little bit of space, and try to play with them a little bit. And a lot of times we come up with a solution. It may not be exactly what I want, but it wasn't what they first said either. So anyway. Okay, number three, question yourself. Ask yourself empowering questions. Ask yourself empowering questions. Now, what you ask yourself is so important, okay? Because if you ask yourself disempowering questions, you're going to be disempowered. It's just going to put you down that way. So ask yourself empowering questions. It's how you approach yourself. It's that mindset we're talking about. It's that perspective we're talking about. We're talking about being focused in a healthy, positive way. Okay? So, it's easy to fall into negative thinking and start asking yourself disempowering questions. But don't do that, okay? You need to remember that you have options. There's more than one way to resolve an issue. There's multiple answers. That's one of the things I learned back in the late 70s, early 80s. There's multiple answers to these questions. There's not just one, okay? And if one don't work, try another one, okay? And eventually we'll find our way through. So ask yourself empowering questions, okay? Don't ask yourself, why is this always happening to me? Why can't I do this? Don't ask those questions. Ask, how do I fix this? How do I go forward? What's the answer to this? I wonder who I could talk to. Okay, things like that. Number 4, think of all the things within your control. Most of the time, we don't think about things that are in our control. We think about what we can't control, things we want to control, the way we want it to be because we're afraid of what's going to happen. We're afraid this is going to take, I'm afraid this is going to happen to me. I'm afraid I'm going to get sick. I'm afraid, we're always afraid, okay? You're focusing on the wrong thing. So we need to think about things that we are in control of. We can how I deal with my health, how I take care of myself, how I wash my hands, how I decide to deal with my stress and anxiety. If you're all feeling stressed and wound out, it's because you're probably being focused on things you can't control. And if you can't control them, no matter how much worry and stress that you input into a subject, it's not going to get any better. In fact, it's going to get worse. You know what I mean, right? So, put your energy into productive, potentially helpful things instead of things that are definitely not going to work out for you, which is things that are not in your control. And what's really in your control is your thinking. Your thinking, your emotions, and your behavior, which we're not very good at any of that, but we can get better if we choose to focus, right? Right. Number 5, take control of your emotional state. We need to realize we can control our emotional state. I just thought of an illustration. I was taking a class one time, and this counselor, I don't know for sure what kind of degree they had, but they were teaching this class, and they were talking about getting upset and dealing with your anger. And one of the ways, this is not the way to do it, by the way, one of the ways was to people that would pull out in front of you, just visualize shooting them with a gun. Now, this was probably back in the 80s, maybe late 70s, and I think it's probably in the 80s. And getting your emotions out so that you don't get worked up. But I think you see that that's just feeding the fire, and we see some of the results of some of that nowadays. People overreacting because of their emotions, and I couldn't retain myself, okay, because I said no, that's not the way to do it. That's dangerous, and she says, well, you can't control your emotions. I said, I can. I choose to. I choose my thoughts, which determine my emotions, my feelings, and I moderate how I feel. And this is what we're talking about right here is we're taking control of our emotional state. And one thing is just knowing that if you are willing to step back and observe your emotions, what's going on, hey, look at the way I am. Is that the way I want to be? No, that's not the way. I prefer to be another way. Just doing that much right there starts to diminish what's going on emotionally. You're not adding any more fuel to the fire. You can begin to start letting that go down, okay? All right? I'm talking about the fire, all right, which would be the emotion. So it's kind of like using a third person perspective, saying, if I'm outside here looking at me and have my behavior, is that the way I want to be? You're looking kind of like a crazy person, right? So anyway, we can make a shift. So that's taking control of your emotional state. And I like what Steve Bakos said, and I mentioned it before. He'd bring people down out of the States and go on to the missionary field, and he's in Nicaragua right now, and this was in Mexico, and people would just get all upset at because things didn't go the way that it was planned to go, and he said, well, maybe you need to get one of my Flexi cookies, and you eat that cookie, and that makes you more flexible, mentally and emotionally. And because the fact of it is, if we don't learn how to be flexible, then you're rigid, and rigid things break. Now, I'm not talking about being totally passive, but I am talking about being flexible, having a flexible mindset. Things go better when you're flexible. And the rest of the story is maybe God wants something done that's not what we thought was the plan. It's happened to me that way all the time. Okay, so last week I want to just touch on this as a little bit of review about that the brain deletes more information than it uses. Okay, it only keeps a small percentage. In fact, the brain receives 11 million bits of information per second, and that's through your eyes and all your other senses. And we only use 40 to 400 bits of information every second. So we delete all the other. In fact, one stat they said was 27,500 times more information is deleted than is kept. Okay, so there's a lot going on, and we are an awesome being. Okay, and Psalms 139:14 out of the King James Version says, "I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows quite well, very well." Another translation says that awesome and amazing. We're awesome and amazing, and God is awesome and amazing, and this machine is awesome and amazing. And this fear, sometimes people get all worked up about the word fearfully, and I looked that up in the Hebrew, and it was to inspire reverence, to godly fear or awe. Okay, all right. So Dr. Carolyn Leaf, which is a Christian neuroscientist, she has this statement, and she says that science is the story of God, and God has had His story in play a long time, and science is starting to catch up with God's stories. And I like the science. I like the research that substantiates that what God has said, which I believe is true because now they're finding that out, and they're finding out more and more all the time. So science is the story of God, and people can tell that story, but not everybody can grasp the fullness of that story. In fact, how could we do that? That would be knowing everything that God knew. Just saying. Number 6, foster a positive outlook. Look for the good and not the bad. We're wired. Our amygdala is part of our brain that looks for threat. That's all it does. And it has a direct connection to our nervous system to try to keep us safe, which God made us that way. But now we have to learn how to override that threat mechanism, because not everything's a threat. Okay? But a lot of us live that way. And if we stay in that high threat mode, it affects us mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, relationship-wise, in every way. Okay? It's good for it to be used for what it's supposed to be, but it's not good when we overuse it. Okay? And the way out of this, you say, well, how do I do it? Start looking for the good. Look for the good. Okay, you recognize the bad. Yeah, that's bad. I don't want to go there. So let's look for the good. Look for the good. Keep your eyes on the good. Focus, focus, focus. Remember, focus. Did I say focus? Focus. Okay. All right. Number 7, catch your limiting beliefs. This is good. This is a little bit of review, but I've added some new things to it. And one of the things I added was this method that I use and I teach people. It's called catch it, check it, change it. The 3 C's. Catch it, check it, change it. What we have to do is catch our thoughts. Okay, we need to catch them. We need to be aware of them. We have stuff that flies through all the time. We're not even aware of them. And so we need to catch our thoughts. Okay, check it. We need to look at it. The way I say to look at it is, hey, is that thought rational or irrational? Is it based on truth or is it a lie? And you will be amazed, if you're not already doing this, that we believe a lot of lies because we've always believed it. I remember a preacher used to say that, hey, don't mess me up with any truth. You know, I've believed this way too long. And so what we have to do is recognize what is the truth. What is the truth? And sometimes we have to work, and that's hard stuff, hard for me, but we're not going to go into all of that. Catch it, check it, change it. Ask, okay, answer, and discuss. That can be an internal. You can do it with people, but you also can do it internally. And when you do that, you're using different parts of your brain, and there's different stuff in different parts, and they're different perspectives. We are an amazing machine. So, yeah, okay. This helps us to start becoming more aware of our thoughts, our negative thoughts and our positive thoughts. And if we get stuck in thinking that hurts us, we need to recognize it so we can deal with it. Okay, so that we can set those thoughts on the shelf. Yeah, just because I believe that all my life doesn't mean that it's true. Is that the truth? Is that really the truth? I know it's not the truth, but I've always believed it. But until you start asking yourself the question, you don't even challenge it. You just go with it. All right. So you can ask yourself some interesting questions and look for keywords that you may say out loud or think. You know, why am I always doing this, or never? How come this never happens, or always this way? Everyone or no one, everyone hates me, no one loves me, everybody's against me. Those are absolute inflexible terms, and absolute terms are absolutely wrong. So, number 8. I want to read this Gandhi quote. Gandhi said this. He says, "We must be the change we wish to see in the world." Okay, it's being. It's not just all about doing. We need to be. If you will be that you need to be, then you will impact all those around you. If you don't like your life the way it is, it's easy. All you have to do is change. And that's a sarcastic statement about easy. But all you have to do is change. And when you change, you affect those around you. Do they have to change? No, but they will be affected. And you can affect people a lot in the negative, right? Well, if you can affect them in the negative, you can affect them in the positive. Let's go forward. Number 8, start practicing reflection. Reflect on your life. Think about it. Think about what you want, where you want to go. Pray, meditate, journal, try mindful techniques like having a thankful list, a grateful list. You know, there are all kinds of benefits for this right here, um, particularly tied to the grateful statement, because you open up your heart and you're grateful for not what you want there to be, but what you have had. And they said you have better health, you have better thinking, you have better energy, just you have better sleep, and even says that even you get over time it even affects your they said you even get smarter. Your IQ goes up. And maybe that is because you have now become more mentally and emotionally, spiritually regulated, and you don't have all that back and forth and that shuts down your brain. Because when you get overwhelmed, it shuts down parts of your brain because you go into fight, flight, or freeze or faint. Okay, so and when you do these things, you'll get in touch with who you really are. And you'll be able to see and have a clearer vision, and then you'll be able to project on the outside what you have on the inside. And that will produce a life that you want instead of a life that you don't want. Have you ever thought about that? The life that you got right now that you don't want, you brought that into existence. Maybe yes, maybe you have some reasons about your environment or the way you were raised or something. But the fact of it is, if you're an adult or getting close to being an adult, you know what you think, how that thinking affects your emotions, and those emotions affect your behavior. How all that goes, that shapes your life. Focus. Okay, let's go. Let's go to the next one. Number 9. Uh, Visualize your ideal life. Those outcomes you want. See what you want instead of focusing on what you don't want. How many times have I got to talk about that? Okay, all right. Use your 5 senses to intensify what you want. See what it is you want to see, hear what you want to hear, taste what you want to taste, smell what you need to smell. There are some tremendous exercises using senses and visualization techniques to help to get in these different areas of your brain to affect you, to help you. Okay, and I use that in prayer, praying for people. People all the time come up and want me to pray for them, and they can describe the bad things that's going on in them, and I ask them to stop looking at that and look at what they want to see instead of what they are visualizing right now, because I don't go into all this, but they're strengthening what they don't want. So we need to shift our thinking and see what we do want, even if we do it a little bit at a time. Okay, piece by piece. I I heard this story here a month or so ago about a guy falling off of a cruise ship, and it was out in the middle of the ocean. And the Coast Guard said, most people don't survive very long, but the ones that do survive, they have something that keeps them going, something that they live for, family to get back to, or something, some purpose in their life that they reach down inside and get some willpower. And this man that fell off this cruise ship, they were surprised that they found him alive, and he was out there treading water for 20 hours. Yes, 20 hours, and they were amazed. And he had 4 or 5 kids that he thought about, and he said he had to get back to. So he did not give up. He kept after. Reminded me of a quote from Nietzsche. He says, "He who has a why to live for can bear almost anyhow." Okay, we'll just keep after it. That's the way a lot of people have survived through all kinds of difficulties and tragedies. Number 10, this is, I don't think we've gone over this one before, and that is challenge your brain to adapt so you are more resilient. Challenge your mind to adapt so that you're more resilient. Resiliency is so important. Boy, we need resiliency to be able to come back when we get knocked down, that we're able to get up, that we have the mental fortitude, the physical fortitude to get back up and keep after it. And we need that. Uh, uh, you know, when someone criticizes us or challenges us, we need not to take it personally. We need to see their perspective as a way of helping us. They're actually trying to help us to get better. They're recognizing mistakes or things we need to shift in, and we need to be open to that. And we need to be willing to say thank you for sharing that with me, and if we can implement their ideas in whatever's going on. And if we don't take it personally, all right, then that feedback can be very, very helpful. I have a statement that I've used many, many years that I needed to implement in my life, and that was this: it's the little tyrants and dictators in my life that are my best teachers. It's the little tyrants and dictators in my life that are my best teachers. Those people that were mean to me and that were hard on me and that were unjust to me and treated me unfairly. We have to learn how to deal with them, not in a passive way, not that you fight everything but I had to learn how to deal with that. And Jesus had to learn the same thing with people because people wanted to push his buttons. And if they could get him mad, get him out of control, then they would have had control of him. Same with you, same with me. Okay. So if I'm able to have a healthier, positive mental state, emotional state, then I'm able to stay focused. And if you're able to stay focused and not in a panic state, okay, then you're able to better use your intellect, your insight, your discernment to navigate the difficulties in life. So we need to challenge our brain to adapt. Be open to new things. Be open to ways to get through it. Be more flexible, okay? You might, I think I already read all that, yeah. Carolyn Dweck, I said I'd be talking about Carolyn Dweck, and she wrote a book on mindset, and she talked about a growth mindset means that you're willing to grow, you're able to learn things, and you have a growth mindset versus a fixed or set mindset. In other words, it's rigid. And some people that are very intelligent, then they think they know it all, and they get set in the way that they think it must be. Sometimes we're that way in our traditions. Okay, we think that's the only way to go, and it's always got to be that way. It's got to, Pastor Mack used to talk about the thing about the new bride that would take the ham and cut off the end of it and cook it. And the husband said, "Why do you do that?" And he says, "Well, Mom always did it that way." And so they said, "Well, let's find out." So they went to her and said, "Why do you take the ham and cut it off and cook it? Why do you and then eliminate it?" And said, "Well, I don't know. That's the way my mother always did it." So they went to Grandma and said, "Grandma, you know, your daughter this way, and then your granddaughter this way, and they're doing it the same way that you always done it. From what we understand, why did you do that?" She says, "Well, it's easy because the ham was too big for my pan, so I had to cut it down." So sometimes traditions have a specific meaning for things, but then maybe when things are different, if you have a bigger pan, maybe you can do it differently. So anyway. Growth mindset. Number 11, cut back. Oh, here you go. I wanted to throw this quote in here by Einstein. It says, "In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity." So when the things are tough, there's that's when you really can find new ways through. So just don't give up. Look for the hole in the line, in the scrimmage line, okay, or the way through, the path, all right, the deal, the insight, okay. If you don't look, you don't find. All right, 11. Cut back on overstimulation, particularly technological stimulation. You know, sometimes we get so controlled by all the stimulation, and that's kind of like keeps our mind distracted from what's going on, and we don't even not even able to be focused on our own thoughts. And so, and if we're not able to focus on our new thoughts, then I mean on our thoughts, then we won't even be able to have any new thoughts or be creative, okay, to solve problems. So we need to maybe limit some of our distractions, like screens. We may need to look at that. Um, uh, if you notice your brain having to jump from one thing to another, you know, I've been doing a lot of studying here. Well, I study often, but I was on some sites that there just seemed to be a lot of those pop-ups there, and I wanted I would have preferred to get rid of them, but I remember having to stay focused on the information I was reading, and different things kept coming up, and you catch them out of the peripheral of your vision, and and there was a part of me that wanted to look, but I was working on trying to keep my focus on what I was trying to do, and so that I'd stay because I only had a short amount of time. I was trying to get through that information so that because actually it was on about communion, and I'm going to be teaching on Sunday night about communion, and I'm trying to get together what I'm looking for. I haven't found it all yet, but I'm believing it'll all come together. So anyway, that's another story. So, um, so if you're struggling with trying to stay focused, because your mind has maybe been trained to keep jumping from thing to thing to thing, then maybe you need to retrain your brain. You know what I mean? Retrain your brain. I have a friend of mine that says that he can only look at a YouTube thing or different stuff just only a few minutes before he has to do something else. He just jump and jump and jump and get pieces of everything. And he said that's just the way the culture is, today's youth culture. And and I didn't say anything, but the fact of it is, maybe that's true. It probably is true. But the reason why it's true is because we, uh, this jumping from one thing to another, that stimuli is a release of endorphins, and that endorphins uh, um, gives you that surge, that good feeling that lifts you up. It's that shot there that makes you feel good, and endorphins is a yeah, I'm looking for it here. There it is. Not endorphins, but dopamine. Excuse me, dopamine. This dopamine is the molecule of more. Okay, and we want more and more and more. Okay, uh, and dopamine is known as the chemical of love, creativity, and addiction. Okay, it pushes us to achieve greatness, which that's the good part. Okay, but it can also lead us to our own downfall, addiction, because and that's what a lot of the media companies or commercials on TV, they want to hook you in and say this will fix you, this will do it, and give you that. If you do this, it'll give you that dopamine hit and suck you in, get you addicted, so to speak. So the way out of that is maybe to recognize it and then take some steps to wean yourself off of some of that. Give yourself some space, some time out of it so that you can kind of settle a little bit. Okay. If you keep things stirred up all the time, keep all that agitation stirred up in the mental water, so to speak, you need to let it begin to settle down. All right. Number 12. Give yourself a mental break, which is basically some of what I've already said. And this is number 12. It says your brain has to have time to wonder. It has to have time to kind of take a break and wonder instead of being in a driven state. Let it kind of reset itself. That's what looking off into the distance and looking at the horizon about. According to Andrew Huberman, Dr. Andrew Huberman says that resets parts of your brain. Okay. And that and when you let it wander and reset, then you're apt to be more creative and more curious about things. Look at things. And so if we continue to get stuck on something over and over, and we're stuck on it, maybe you just need to have a disconnect strategy of maybe get a cup of coffee or go to the restroom or stretch or something. Go on a walk. Einstein would use a walk. Okay, he'd go on daily walks just to give himself time to think. It was either, I don't know who was it. It was either Einstein or maybe it was Edison, that he said, I remember the bump in the road when this idea came to me. So sometimes we need to give our brain and our mind a chance to shift. Okay, so new perspectives. If we can get a new perspective on something by being able to focus, and sometimes we're going to need to break that focus. Okay, that's helpful. I'm going to read the scripture here because Jesus gave some insight here in Mark 16:17. He said, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood." It wasn't natural, okay? It was supernatural, okay? He said, not by flesh and blood, but by your Father in heaven. And he was saying that, you got this insight. And that's what I'm trying to do, is help you to be able to connect so that you can have this creativity, this insight, this curiosity, this input, revelation, if you will. And the way you do that is we have to learn to stop focusing on the drains of life that take your power and focus on that will give you more mental, emotional, and spiritual power. Hey, I'm going to be off for the next couple of weeks to Christmas, and so hopefully everything will be well. I'll be around, but I want to encourage you to be in church. We're going to have on Christmas Day, we're going to be having church. We're going to be having communion and some special things on Christmas Day here at the church. And so Sunday morning, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and may His face shine upon you. May He smile on you, because that's the way He is. He smiles on you and give you His peace. Make healthy choices. Till we see each other again, take care of yourself.